Everyone, Ellen Sutter, the ESP Presents and ESP Book Chats, where we bring page turners your way today. This morning, our guest, Dr. Bagby, Velma Bagby, and we are talking about her book, The Wrong Catch. She'll tear down the house. Come on in. So these women, I'm telling you, I'm telling. Hopefully that works. Hello. All right.
Yay!
Yes.
So how
So
did I get
it's
here?
look, let's just sit back and touch nothing.
Yes, yes.
So as we were saying, Mr. Garrison, and those on there, hello to you guys. We got to do this real quick, and I see the enemy is mad. So we're talking to the women, and I said the atmosphere is now to the tune of we're out of hand. I'm just gonna say it, and we're speaking about the Christian family, and we're speaking about women in general across the world, no matter what's going
Yeah,
on, and that is what we're talking about today.
yeah,
So let's just get started. And what I said the last time you had metaphorically, you were talking about the men
yeah,
and their character was fish. Now we're talking about women. And
yeah.
so women, the metaphor for the women, you got insects, animals, and toys that you talk about. Let's talk about some of these characters of the women, and let's get into this.
Yes. Well, we have the black widow spider, and who pretty much kills her husband after getting what she wants. And we start the story with a young man who so busy working many jobs, multiple jobs, just trying to please her, that he ends up dying early, just trying to do everything that he felt that his wife wants. We have the queen bee, just like the bee itself. The queen bee doesn't do any work. She has all the babies, and the worker bees takes care of the household and the babies, and so that's her character. And she's also what's known as the microwave woman, and so that's her character as well. Then I have four women that I refer to as the narc women, and the narc women are narcissistic women because of the fact that narcissism is a mental illness, by the way, and we always refer to it as a condition that men have, but women have it too. So not only does some of the wives have it, but there's a mother that's narcissistic, and it's you find out what the man has to do to get out from under her thumb. Then we have the hyena, the antelope. The hyena, people love the sound of the hyena, not realizing that the hyena is not laughing. It's the female leader who's barking orders. So if you understand someone who's always barking orders and being in control, that's your hyena. The antelope, I'm going to keep her a secret right now, because you really have to discover her. And let me just say that her husband knows that she works nights, but he has no idea what she does at night until one day he discovers it. And then there's the church dog. And the church dog is someone who had been groomed by a church leader to do what she was doing in her assignment. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Yes, and we'll talk a little bit deeper on this channel here. We're just gonna do a little snippets here, a little cameo, and then we'll come back. We'll be on Facebook, and that'll be on the 24th, and that'll be 10 a.m. And then we'll end our discussion on wisdom, which will be a 8 p.m. show, Eastern Standard Time. And those two shows are an hour. This one's just a much shorter show. So I look in there and I see that Garrison is telling the men to be careful. Don't worry about the pretty face, but to be careful. And he tells them, and I always say, and I think you heard me say, I did a video that I said Garrison, but Grayson, he pulls the men out on a red carpet. Yeah. Fill out this application. We're going to be very transparent, and don't look at a pretty face. How important as a writer, as a wife, it is for a man to choose the right potential mate.
Well, really, the men that have chosen the right mates, that's exactly what they did. They examined the heart of the person. And so we have to get away from thinking that what you see on the outside is all you're supposed to have and falling in love with that too soon. before really getting to know the person. So really the bottom line in all of these stories is that the man fell in love with the idea of a wife and saw what he saw on the outside. And these women put on a presentation during the dating process and revealed themselves, their true selves, after they married these men. There's only one story that turns out to be a success, and that's towards the end. But this is just the story. But, you know, we talk about the fact that men have traditionally done that. They focus on the outside, really, and have to be careful not giving their heart away to love so easily and so quickly, but really spend the time getting to know what is at the heart of this person. Just like we talked about in the earlier books, with the women, and making sure they do the same thing, because women used to be better at this than men, and somehow they began to slip and fall into that same pattern of looking at what's on the outside. So Grayson just takes that conversation and reminds the men, the women that you're seeking as a mate, the scripture describes as a valuable ruby. So if you want a ruby, you must be at ruby level too. So get yourself together for that level of a mate.
I like the way you say that, because in terms of a women, we just always want to get married.
Yeah.
And getting married, sometimes the process is not, we're not ready in
Nope.
preparing. We just want to get married. My friend got married. My cousin got married the other day. I seen it on TV and somebody got married. But being married is different from getting married. And so they found out some things. So I like head on in the story how one particular man, they were talking about the microwave woman.
Yes.
And so nowadays we got millennials, and some of the millennials have a backdrop of, you know, the baby boomers upbringing. But we see some women who are working hard within right. They're working hard right now. And they just don't want to be in touch with cooking. Now, I'm going to be honest, Dr. Velma. When I met my husband, I had 2 kids, but I wasn't cooking. I didn't know how to cook. My mom, she said that she had 8 daughters. She said, ain't nobody cooking for her man. She'll show us how to prep, but we ain't cooking for her man. That's how my mom was.
Right.
That's how she was.
And
so she let us see what to do. She showed us how to cut this up and that, but you're not preparing it for him. That's my man.
Because
so with saying that, I had no interest in cooking, but I have the 2 kids. Like I say, they were little, and I was just doing a little fend for yourself, and I didn't think it was required. And I had been married before. I wasn't cooking. I didn't think that it was required. You know, as long as you give them hamburger, french fries, hot dogs, they good, right?
Right.
So I meet my husband now, who I'm with, married for 31 years together, 35 years. It was something different about him that I tried to cook, because I was like, this big, tall man, I'm going to make sure I cook. It became important that I knew how, because I knew he liked to eat. And so that first time cooking the food, the chicken was so golden. It wasn't bloody in the inside, y'all. Don't think I'm saying that. It just didn't have enough seasoning on, but it was golden. My rice, some of it was fluffy on the top. Some of them had still hard. And so I didn't know that, Dr. Velma. I didn't know that. And so he told me, I said, how does it taste? I opened the door for him to speak. He said, the chicken is good, but it doesn't have any seasoning. I wanted his honest opinion. And then what made me look is that he was biting down on the rice. I said, why are you biting down on the rice? Why are you biting down on rice? And so from there, I learned how to cook through being married to him.
And he showed you grace.
Yes, he
and that's
did.
What it takes in a marriage. He saw your effort, and he showed you grace. So
Yes,
that's the point in a marriage. We show each other grace, but you he acknowledged the effort. Because let me tell you, Lucille across the fence will fix the food for your husband.
I'm telling you.
And Lucille was not going to bring food over to my house, because a woman can add some things in that food before you know it. The husband doesn't even know why he's walking this way and gravitating toward this way, because she didn't slip something in the food. So you have to be very careful with that. And
that's right.
Characters had everybody but herself preparing the meals for her husband. So she really was sneaky and underhanded and cheating, making her husband believe that she was cooking all that food.
So should that be a skill set? With saying that, Dr. Velma, should cooking be a skill set that they should achieve? Because some men, they say, it's okay, she can't cook. And some women think that the bedroom will constitute a substitute for those things.
Well, that gets us old because love is about more than the bedroom. So let me tell
Yes.
you, there's a lot of romantic things that's beyond that. So when you grow into that, you'll understand what we're talking about. And that's why we cannot build a life around these superficial things. All of it is about love. I love my husband and
Mm-hmm.
I want this for him. If he likes to do things, my husband likes to clean and does the dishes. He likes to come through and vacuum. That's okay. He's doing it out of love for me. So we have to understand that there are things we do out of love. It's not out of obligation. It's not a contract. Marriage is not a contract. And we try to make it to build it as if today in today's society, as if it's a contract, like that crazy stuff you hear people say,
Mm-hmm.
I'm giving 50, they must give 50. Well, that's a contract, and a contract requires conditions. And if those conditions are not met, then you're out of the
You're
contract. We're
out.
not talking about that foolishness. We're talking about the fact that this is what we do in terms of loving one another. It's not a contract, it's a covenant. And a covenant means that God is expecting us to operate at 100% a unit. So our unit has to total 100%. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting only 6% because my husband is giving the 94 because I'm down in the bed sick. So he's
Exactly.
carrying the 94% of our unit. And so it doesn't matter who gives what. As long as we lovingly make sure we have 100% between each other, that's all that matters. But all this other nonsense doesn't make sense at
So
all. The
true.
covenant doesn't
And
require
for
it.
those of you that are looking on, this Dr. Velma, and her book backdrops behind her, that she have the wrong cast, she'll tear down the house. And so we're just doing snippets here, but guys gonna hear the full story on Facebook as well as on Wisdom. But I wanted to ask you one more question before we go, because this is a teaser, totally a teaser. Yeah, yeah, it's not over yet, but this is a teaser. I wanted to ask you, Dr. Velma, when I was looking and I'm in the beginning of it all and seeing things and taking notes, like when you guys read this book, take clear notes. And just like I told Dr. Velma, her book is so prevalent now, especially with toxic masculinity.
Yes.
And this is not a leader. He can't lead me. I don't need this. But the questions that the men were told to ask the women, should we just spill a little bit of the question?
Well,
Or
let me
should we
say,
leave that alone? Because
we,
I wanted to look at that, because we don't ask questions, and I'm wondering if that question for me as a woman, and speaking in general, the question that they ask real questions to the women, and I don't think we're ready for those questions. I don't think we're ready to answer them. I don't think, like, if on the other foot, if the women asking how much money you got, are you six figures, blah blah blah. Those are questions they ask, and we expect for them to tell us. But the question that they ask, will the women really respond to them?
well, first of all, let me explain that I surveyed
Mm-hmm.
some godly men that I know, and I asked them, what are some of the challenges you find in dating? And these are men who are respectable, honorable. One was married, no, two were married, and a few other are not. But they began to share some of their dating challenges. And so, I'm sorry, my dog is dancing over there. Um, and so, based on that, the characters were created. And in the survey that Grayson talks to the men about, some of those came directly from those men. The
Wow.
microwave women came directly, and the person that gave me that is a millennial. He's married now,
Mm.
but he brought that. I said, wait a minute, explain the microwave woman. That's a new title to me. And he began to explain it, and I said, oh my gosh, we used to talk about that kind of woman, but now she has a title, doesn't know how to cook, and the only thing she knows how to prepare has to go in the microwave. Who wants that? That's awful. And so I'm saying, if you want to show your husband love, you would want to do better.
And I did.
That's what it's about. It's not about, well, he needs to do this. If you go into a marriage relationship with that kind of attitude, you're not ready for marriage.
Mm-mm,
That's not the group I'm talking to.
mm-mm.
So in that survey, you saw the things that he mentioned. He
Yeah.
mentioned the microwave woman. And why is it that so many women bring baggage to the relationship? And remember, in my first two, book 1 and book 3, I talk about that women need to learn how to lay aside all this baggage. I call them weight, because weight is something you drag around. And if a runner is running towards a goal, and in this case, your goal is marriage, they will lay aside anything that will prevent them from running towards that goal. And that's what we should do. And if a man has to mention that women have baggage, then they need to acknowledge they need to get rid of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Stop looking for a man to fix your life. Have your life together before he comes.
Woo!
Get yourself together. And I really point out the importance of loving you first. Because if you don't, a man like the catfish who loves garbage loves that kind of smell in a woman. The kind of smell that she knows she doesn't feel good about herself. She doesn't have good self-worth. And we are nurturers, true, but you can't nurture a man. This is not Build-A-Bear like you get in the mall. This is your opportunity to allow him to be who he is supposed to be for you as your husband, and your covering, your priest in the home, and your prophet, priest, and king, the threefold role that Jesus had, prophet, priest, and king. And so he goes on to talk about mental illness, not being caught off guard by it, but being honest and open about how are you getting help? Are you getting support? Does it run in your family? And so what we do is I bring in the tough questions into this book, because in book 1 and 3, we have kind of the easy questions on a date. And the very first one is, what's your intention in dating me? What did you see in me that you wanted to date me? Because if you don't get the right answer in that first question, you need to get out of there. That's a red flag. And so we tend to ignore those flags. And so this is what the men were saying, uncover. So I say, let me bring in some of those questions we used to wait and ask a couple when they're engaged. Well, it's too late now. Now we have to ask some of those things early on, so you can then use those to determine if that's going to be a potential mate for you.
Wow. Another thing, Dr. Velma, and we'll be going in a minute, but another thing, Dr. Velma, that my eyes is just open throughout. And so the book is not out, so we got a chance to preview the coming of traction. One of the things that I had looked at, again, combed through in what I was reading, is the fact that the man, let's see, how do I say this? He was asked, some deep questions. And as the woman, as he think about it, I'm going to go here with Christian men, because that's who we're talking about. So the Christian man, this blew me away. When the woman says that she's a Christian, but she doesn't pick up her Bible. She says she loves God. Now we hop on me and doing this. She says she loves God, but for me, I've seen where a husband loves God and he comes to church and his wife doesn't. That is so dangerous, because women are more prone to have their spirituality in check. But that is dangerous. I'm glad you brought that out.
Every last woman in this book, except for a couple, except for 2, are the descriptions that the Bible provides as a fool. The woman who tears down the house, it refers to as a fool. The scripture in Proverbs 14:1 says, a wise woman builds. So whatever you need to do to build your home and make it happy and make it solid, a wise woman does that. But a foolish or a fool tears it down. These are the fools we're talking about in the book. And what they do is they tend to present themselves one way while they're dating. And every last one of them flipped the script after they married the man and showed who they really were. And so that's what we have to keep in mind. And we have to be careful of that. Because the one character I wanted to mention to you also, Ellen, is the people pleaser. She was picked on all her life as a people pleaser, just trying to please whatever the bully said, and decided to flip it and manipulate being a pleaser to get what she wants. And so she was a different character to me. That she just pleased, but she figured out a way to use it to her advantage. And so there's all kinds of characters in this book that would make you pause. And even the surveys that I did with the men, they are incorporated in the stories and in the presentation that Grayson gives to the men to let them know that he surveyed, but really I was the one that surveyed the men and got information.
the pot gets a little thicker in this book. It gets really, really thick. And us women, we need to put our seatbelts on and then say, yeah, I'm possibly, yeah, yeah. We don't need to deny things.
Yeah.
And so with this, I was like, wow. And
Yeah.
so I had a long story talk, a long story short, a talk the other day, and asking on my podcast, asking women, um, do we emasculate our men? So not too many women came forth, but on the Wisdom app, the creator of the app, Dio, she came and she asked questions, and we had a dialogue back and forth. What I realized in our conversation is that even though that we are women in America and different countries, we our mindset is different. Just because you're black don't mean you're black in another country think the same way. And they call it the Western thinking or something like that. We think differently on that. And then I see somewhere, to make a long story short, I heard a guy on the media streets was saying that some of the Asian are marrying the black, they're marrying and they mixing with black race. But the whole point is this too, that they said that our black men is going into other countries to find other women, whether they're looking for the submissiveness or whether they're looking for the traditional way that we're normally at. What do you think about that? And for our takeaway, tell us what you want us to know as
Yeah.
women.
They're
Sit us on your lap, like they used to say back in the day. But
well,
first answer that.
they're looking for the submission, but there's different levels of submission. And so you're looking at a culture that does everything the man wants you to do. So a people pleaser is basically what they're looking for. And in the book and in the story, you'll find that gets old when all you get is yes and no interaction, no mental challenges, no intellectual conversation, because it's going, whatever you say, yes, whatever you want, yes. Well, that gets old after a while. Sometimes you just want a conversation, see another perspective, another side, and he doesn't get that. So you'll see the moral of the story. But for those who are looking for somebody to bend over backwards, I don't quite want that, because it ought to be my love that surrenders to you.
Yeah.
I surrender to you because I love you. And so that's what love should be. The same kind of love that Christ gave us. He surrendered his life for our sake because that was the only way for him to save us. And so that I choose to present women in the way of showing and telling their truth. I had a conversation the other day in a interview where someone asked about being professional and why are men intimidated by professional women. I said, no. In the Purple Book, the third book, I talk about one of the characters shares what she got caught up in when she met the man she met. And talking about Build-A-Bear, she thought because she had the mentality to work on a problem and takes pride in turning that situation around in business and making it successful, she thought she can apply that same business mindset to a relationship, and she found out she couldn't. The other thing that happens, and I explained on that conversation, is I was a deputy administrator overseeing over 100 staff in 10 offices working for state government. But when I came home from work and walked in the door, I was just my husband's wife. I didn't bring that hat, because in the boardroom, you have to exercise a certain level of testosterone, because you have to let people know you know your stuff, you are the leader, and you are the person that's running the show in a sense. But when I came home, I was just my husband's wife, my daughter's mother. And so I said, sometimes on a date, professional women forget to take that side of them off and leave it at work or at home. No man wants to sit on a date with another man. And I'm not saying that's your preference. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying, if a man is on a date with a woman, he's not looking to have a conversation with another person, a female, thinking she's going to show a feminine side and she's showing her work business side. And you have to leave that, set it aside. And the woman was really pleased with the answer I provided her. I said, we forget to take it off and turn it off. You don't need it at home and you don't need it on a date. You apply it at work, but not there. And so we get these things mixed up on purpose. And that's not the man's fault. That's the woman's fault. The submission side, understanding what love really is, and First Corinthians chapter 13 will tell you what love looks like. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't keep a record. It does what love does. It's sacrificial. It's about forgiveness. It's about not bringing up something old. That's keeping a record. Always bringing up the same old problem. No, you forgive and you let it go. All those
Mm-hmm.
things. And then letting go of all the baggage that you have. So I talk about the importance of a woman getting herself together. And in this book, Grayson does the same thing with men. Stop going after a ruby if you're not ready for one. You need to
Mm-hmm.
get yourself together first. And if the woman doesn't understand that she's the crown of her husband, and you understand the crown, that's not a microwave woman.
Mm-hmm.
If you understand a ruby, that's the most expensive stone. That's the monster of all gemstones. If you understand how valuable you are, that God called you the good in Genesis chapter 1, in the very beginning, you were the good that came along to make a bad situation better. The only good that God can think could fix the situation was a woman, and that's what he created. And so you have to embrace who he says you are and make sure you have that in your heart, because that is what a man is going to see when he examines you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. The book is going to be out. Let us know when the book is going to be
It's
out.
coming out November 30th releases. It's the ebook is on pre-order now.
Yeah, because I got my pre-order. Dr. Velma, this book is so good. And as I said, I'm a fan of yours. Every book that come out, I think I got all of your books, I guess, either on Kindle or, hardback. But Dr. Velma, this right here, did you get any slapback? Or it hadn't been out a while enough, the feedback
Every,
from any women or
no,
anything like that this time?
it's doing just like the first two books. The first book 1 and 3 was not designed to bash men at all. It was designed to show women how they should pursue a mate. And so the fish characters was just simply that. And I always included in there what the women needed to do in themselves, not those characteristics, and what about their hearts attracted the wrong men.
Mm-hmm.
In this book, I try to do the same thing. Present what men need to know, what they need to embrace, how they need to examine the woman they're considering. Stop falling in love with the outward appearance and really get to know the essence of her heart. All of that does the same thing. And so as a result, the women who have read the art copy of this new book, they've already said, I saw myself as the queen bee. I got married and didn't know how to do anything. She said the only difference is I didn't have any children, but I was exactly the queen bee. So it's doing what it should
Good.
do. You should be able to see, women can see what they should not be. And one woman said, I'm reading all the characters because I'm trying not, and she's married. She said, I'm trying not to duplicate any of these behaviors in my marriage. And so I love that. And that's what it's intended to do, not to bash any particular one group, but to present stories so you can see what to avoid or identify something you need to fix in yourself.
Mm-hmm. So, Dr. Velma, as we said, we got our character traits that the woman is portrayed in insects, animals, and some toys.
Mm-hmm.
So, in that, you as a writer, I can identify with being a woman with the characters that you're talking about, and
Mm-hmm.
especially with the just saying Queen Bee, we can relate. How important was it for you to get these just right to fit those characteristics of those women? How important was it for you to do that?
If I took the time to make sure I matched the fish with the right characters in the book 1 and book 3, I wanted to make sure that this book did the same thing. So I took my time to really look at what type of woman I was going to talk about based on those surveys, creating the characters around those surveys, and then looking to see what would match that character, whether it's an animal or whether it's an insect. And as I began to research, that's exactly what I researched, the characteristics of these things. And lo and behold, I was able to match the characters with these titles. And it's interesting because my favorite was what I discovered about the hyena. I said, wow, everybody thinks it's laughing, and it's not. It's barking.
Mm,
Perfect
mm,
for the woman that I needed to show. Had behavior that was not helpful. And the husband worked long hours. And it's interesting that it's the father that tells the story about his daughter who duplicated the mother's behavior. The mother was a hyena. He told her how he dealt with it. because they had so many, I think 16 children. He worked hard and he just wanted to make sure his children were cared for. But he said he worked long hours just to avoid going home. And then
I heard
Grayson
people say
tells,
that. I've heard people
right,
say
and then
that.
Grayson tells the men, look, some of you guys retreat, but I know a place that's growing in business in every city, and I know where you're going. And Grayson told the men, and the men said, oh, Pastor Grayson, are you calling us out? He said, yes, I am. That's called sin a sin. He said, but this is a growing business in every city. So I know all of you are not working long hours.
Woo!
So it's really interesting.
Wow, Dr. Velma, I know that this book is going to just soar. So those people that are on here, I don't know, at the end, I was going to put the book link. Those of you that are on there, get your pre-order. I thought I had it here. Let's see. Yeah, nope. I'll put it at the end. And Dr. Velma, if you're able to put it on
Yeah,
there. This has been an amazing talk here, Dr. Velma. I can't
thank you.
wait to go a little bit deeper. You are so welcome to go a little bit deeper. And all I can say is ouch and amen. Ouch and
Amen.
amen. I'm sure that
Amen.
we will, I'll let you know once I continue to go through and comb through
Well,
and be honest of which one I am,
Miss Ellen,
which character I am.
49 years married has given me a lot of information to add and include.
Yes, yes, that is so beautiful. Where can they meet you? What you got coming up? And
If
what's
you
happening?
go onto my profile page, I've posted a lot of my podcast interviews that are coming up. So you can get that. You can go to my website, it's there as well, drvelmabagby.com. Please make sure you subscribe. When I get closer to releasing this book, I love to give away freebies. I'm working on some favorite things for you, Miss Ellen. So I hope you like what I come up with.
I know I will, because you're
So
always phenomenal
please
like that.
subscribe. I'm on all social media platforms. You see my name here on Instagram. I'm on my profile page is Dr. Velma. I also have an authors group that's Dr. Velma Bagby and Friends, as well as Twitter. I'm on Threads, LinkedIn. Feel free to connect with me in any of those platforms.
Thank you so much, Dr. Velma. This has been
Thank you.
amazing. It's always a great time talking with you. It's always fun, and like you say, you do give away some good stuff. I'm like, what? But Dr. Velma, it is my hope that book clubs or all of those that are on here will go out and get it. It's not just a conversation piece, but it's a lifelong thing that we can put on our shelves in our
Yeah.
ministry, well as, those who are thinking about in want of being married and those that are
Yes.
married. It's good for all of us. You have an amazing day today
You do
and
the same.
forevermore. And I'm looking forward to our next two
And
talks.
I am too, Miss Ellen. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
You too as well.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you, everyone.
All right. Thank you guys for being here. You guys have a wonderful day. Thank you for listening. Do go and look for it again. It is the wrong cat. She'll tear down the house. Look that up and enjoy. Hopefully you guys can meet us on the next discussion, which will be the 24th of October, and it will be on Facebook. And then on November 1st, we will have Dr. Velman. That will be on Wisdom. That's an 8 p.m. Talk, and the one on Facebook is a 10. The one on Facebook is a 10 a.m. Also be on the lookout on November 9th on Wisdom, which is audio only. We will have New York Times bestseller Kimberly Lawson Roby. We'll have her over on Wisdom at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to reach back to her vintage book, which is Behind Closed Doors. I believe that was the first book she wrote, but we will talk about that again. But stay tuned for Kimberly Lawson Roby on Wisdom. Download the app, go to your app store, look for Wisdom, sync it with your prompt information that they have you to sync, and look for Ellen Sutter. ESP Presents. It's the one with myself and my husband on there. You guys have an amazing day. Thank you all for being here again. Thank you to our guest, Dr. Velma Bagby. Thank you so much for being here. You all guys have an amazing day. Bye-bye.